In the city of Alabaster, perfection was law. It was a city built from a single terrifying idea: conformity. Its economy, its culture, and its entire identity depended on one thing: the Imperial Crimson Tulip. A flower engineered over centuries to be perfectly mathematically identical. Every petal the same shade, every stem the same height. In Alabaster, difference was a crime. Weed was not a botanical term, it was a moral judgment. A daisy, a dandelion, or even a slightly paler tulip, all were considered flaws, and all flaws were to be purged. And the purger was head garden inspector Theron. He was the high priest of this religion. He moved through the gardens carrying a silver rod heated red hot. If a flower was found to be different, it was corrected. In this world, there was a gardener named Elara. She was one of the best. Her rows were straight, but beneath her obedient hands, her heart was suffocating. She mourned every defiant daisy if she was forced to destroy. The change began one night when a strange wind blew over Alabaster. A dirty wind, smelling of salt and foreign lands. As Elara stood on her secret rooftop, a small leather pouch landed at her feet. Below, a figure emerged from the shadows, the wind traveler, a mythical outcast. A whispering voice rose. "Do not be afraid, little gardener. Perfection is a beautiful cage, but it is fragile." Elara clutched the pouch, asking who he was. The traveler explained he was a memory of what the land used to be. The world is vast. It knows how to live, how to bend. Those are the seeds of the other, the strange, the stubborn, the imperfect, the ones who survive. Plant them, hide them, because the wind is changing, Elara, and perfection is a very, very thin shield. Before Elara could speak, the traveler vanished. Her heart pounding, Elara opened the pouch. The seeds were bizarre. One was a jagged piece of black obsidian, another a knot of silver thread. A third was a tiny crystallized teardrop glowing with a faint blue light. They were weeds. They were illegal. Possessing them was treason. That night, Elara made her choice. On a forgotten rooftop, she planted the seeds of chaos. The next day, Inspector Theron arrived at her public garden. He was in a foul mood. He found a tulip 1.2 centimeters taller than protocol allowed. "This is an aberration." His voice was sharp. "A sign of ambition. It is a flaw. Correct it." He offered Elara the red-hot silver rod. Elara stared at it, her hand shaking. "Correct it," Theron commanded, "or I will." With tears blurring her vision, Elara pressed the rod to the base of the beautiful, defiant tulip. It sizzled and died. "Perfection is maintained through vigilance, gardener. Do not forget it." He swept away, leaving Elara alone with the smell of burnt life. That act hardened something inside her. That night, Elara tended her secret garden with a new ferocity. But the new seeds were a bitter disappointment. Weeks passed. Nothing grew. The soil remained flat and undisturbed. Elara watered. She waited. Not a single sprout. Meanwhile, the city of Alabaster reached its apex. It was the month of the Great Bloom Festival. The city was a sea of perfect, identical crimson. Theron was celebrated as a hero. He gave a speech in the main square, his voice booming. "Today we celebrate our victory over chaos. We have achieved the end of nature." Elara stood in the crowd, feeling utterly defeated. Her secret garden was a failure. The wind traveler had lied. Perfection had won. She returned to her rooftop that night, intending to dig up the useless soil. She knelt, trowel in hand, but she paused. She pressed her hand to the dirt. It was warm. She pressed her ear to the ground. She heard movement, a faint, deep grinding sound, the sound of immense, slow, powerful effort. She realized the truth. The seeds were growing. They just weren't growing up. They weren't wasting time on fragile, showy blooms. In the dark, where no one could see, they were building roots. They were anchoring themselves deep in the foundation of the building, twining together, creating a complex, powerful, unseen network. A slow, secret smile spread across Elara's face. She whispered to the earth, "You're not dead. You're just smart." The end came as the wind traveler had warned. On the wind. It was a different wind, a wet, sickly, reddish-brown wind, carrying spores from the over-cultivated fields to the south. A new disease, a blight, a plague that scientists would later call monoculture's end, the crimson rust. It was a predator of terrifying intelligence. It had evolved for one purpose, to hunt one specific, unvarying genetic code, the DNA of the Imperial Crimson Tulip. It was invisible, it was relentless, and it was perfect. It struck the day after the festival. A single reddish-brown spot appeared on a single tulip. Theron himself saw it. He sneered, calling it a flaw, and corrected it with his hot rod. The next morning, 10,000 flowers had the spot. By the third day, the entire city was covered. A cold, absolute panic gripped Alabaster. Theron was frantic. He mobilized the city, commanding, "Purge it, burn the infected fields." But they couldn't. The disease was airborne. For every field they burned, the spores rose on the smoke and infected 10 more. The perfection of their city, the endless, identical rows, was now their doom. There was no firewall. There was no diversity to stop the spread. It was a single crimson body, and it was all being eaten alive. In 1 week, Alabaster died. The city's entire economy, its culture, its identity, gone. The air filled with the horrific, sweet stench of rot. The beautiful crimson sea had become a vast, bubbling swamp of decay. Theron, his mind broken, was found in the central square, mechanically polishing his silver rod, muttering, "Perfection is maintained through vigilance." The city, its only export now worthless, faced starvation. The walls they had built to keep the world out now kept them trapped inside with their own decay. It was in this moment of total despair that the city's attention turned up. A watchman, gazing hopelessly from the walls, saw it, a flash of light on the long-forgotten rooftop of the old bakery. When Theron and the city council broke down the door to Elara's secret garden, they were not prepared. It was not a garden, it was a jungle. It was a riot of impossible life. The deep, powerful roots had finally erupted. Great, twisting vines with fruits like crystal grapes snaked around the chimneys. Giant, silvery blue mushrooms pulsed with a soft, bioluminescent light. Flowers shaped like spiral nebulae hung in the air, releasing a clean, sharp scent that cut through the stench of rot. And in the center, a single, magnificent tree had grown from the black obsidian seed. Its leaves a deep, healthy green, its bark like polished night. The council members fell back in terror. One shouted, "Witchcraft! This is the source of the plague!" "No," Theron said. He stepped forward, his eyes hollow. He was no longer an inspector. He was just a defeated man. He walked through the garden, his hand brushing against the impossible plants. He touched the glowing mushroom. He looked at the vibrant leaves. It's not sick," he whispered, his voice cracking. The rust is not here. Why is it not here?" Elara stepped out from behind the great black tree. "Because it doesn't belong." What are these things?" Theron asked. "They are weeds," Elara said, her voice clear and strong. "They are the other. They are imperfect, and they are strong." And she was right. They discovered that the useless plants were the city's salvation. The glowing mushrooms, when crushed, produced a potent balm that purified the crimson rust from the soil itself. The crystal grapes were full of clean water. The leaves of the black tree, when boiled, created a powerful medicine that cured the hacking cough. The Garden of Weeds was a perfect, self-contained ecosystem built to survive. Theron, his face streaked with tears and dirt, his perfect white uniform stained with the mud of his failed city, looked at Elara. He did not command, he begged. "Gardener, we are dying. Please, do you have any more seeds?" Elara looked at him. She saw not the tyrant, but the broken man, the man who had been a prisoner of his own fragile idea. She walked to the base of the black tree. Its branches were heavy with seed pods, spiky, strange, ugly, and beautiful. She gathered them in her hands. She walked back to Theron and the council. She didn't hand them over. She opened her hands and let the seeds fall to the rooftop floor, a defiant, hopeful clatter. Alabaster is dead. Now, let's plant a forest. The city was reborn. They learned that perfection is a cage, and uniformity is a death sentence. They learned that true strength, true resilience, does not come from being identical. It comes from being different. Theron became Elara's first student, his silver rod now used as a humble planting tool. And Elara, the gardener who was once punished for a single flaw, became the architect of a new, chaotic, beautiful world. We are all told to be the Crimson Tulip, to fit in, to follow the rules, to cut away the parts of ourselves that are strange, weird, or unproductive. We are taught that our uniqueness is a weed to be purged. But in that strangeness lies your strength. In that flaw lies your resilience. In that useless seed lies your true purpose. The world doesn't need another perfect, identical flower.
It needs your specific, unique, and defiant garden. What strange seed have you been hiding? What part of you have you been told is a weed that might just be your greatest gift? If this story helped you see the beauty in your own uniqueness, help our community grow, subscribe to Mindbloom Animation for more stories that celebrate the seeds of the other.